Several hours later, on the 10th floor of the Sazerdan Labyrinth, the trio, Paja, Chalia, and Ray makes their way into the boss room. They carefully scan their surroundings, their eyes alert for any sign of the Minotaur. The tension is solid as they search for the beast, ready for whatever they might encounter. As they find the Minotaur lying beside a pond of water inside the boss room, the tension in the air becomes almost tangible. The beast's numerous bruises and cuts are evident, and the trio braces themselves, prepared for any potential confrontation. The Minotaur sniffs the air and notices the trio, gazing at them intently. As they find the Minotaur resting inside the boss room, Paja comments that it's only natural for a floor boss to be found in its designated area, questioning why the Minotaur would have so much hair. Ray adds that it's unusually large, the biggest he's encountered so far. The Minotaur stares at them intensely. Paja, puzzled, asks why the creature doesn't seem threatened or scared despite their presence. He confirms that all of them are at a level where they could handle a Minotaur alone. Paja questions again why the Minotaur appears so self-important, sizing them up as if it's unconcerned about their capabilities. Chalia, with a wary expression, says she'll hunt it down just in case. She adds that she doesn't like the look in its eyes one bit. Ray, ever calm, suggests that the Minotaur is likely a unique monster. He notes that unique monsters often have a higher chance of dropping rare items. Paja then asserts that, given this, it's only natural that all the rewards, including any bonuses, should be a share. Chalia, commenting on Paja's avarice, asks if he's still as greedy as ever. She adds that in return, he should cover the expenses for any expendables they use. Ray tells Paja that if a bastard sword happens to drop, he'd like to keep that one for himself. Paja responds that even for a unique monster, obtaining such a rare item is difficult. He mentions that he heard someone with peculiar tastes hunted 50 of these monsters without success. Ray then points to himself and says that it was actually him, though more accurately, it was 49. Paja is shocked by the revelation. Chalia cuts off the chatter, urging everyone to hurry and get into formation. She signals and shouts, "Let's hunt!" As they form their positions, Ray takes the front as the tank and vanguard, wielding his large, heavy sword and wearing his full armor for close combat. Chalia positions herself on the left side as the mage and primary damage dealer. Paja moves to the right, readying his bow for long-range attacks. Chalia orders that she and Ray draw the Minotaur's attention, while Paja should take the opportunity to shoot arrows from a distance. Once the Minotaur is paralyzed by the poison, Chalia plans to deliver the finishing blow with her powerful Fireball of Death spell. Paja comments that since he's covering the expenses, it's frustrating to be told to use his expensive Icaros arrows. Chalia tells him to be quiet, emphasizing that she just wants to wrap up the fight with this small fish quickly. Paja sighs in resignation. Paja thinks to himself that he also wants to finish the fight quickly. In truth, he feels that something has been off about the Minotaur since the moment he first saw it. The Minotaur, with its muscular body, intense expression, and black fur, emanates a very ominous aura that fills the room. Paja positions his hand and activates an ability known as Sack, causing a magic circle to appear and buzz. The Minotaur, intrigued and shocked by the sight, watches as Paja uses this grace job ability, which creates an invisible storage space. Paja reaches into the magic circle and retrieves an arrow. Chalia begins to chant, casting the spell Earth Bind. Roots emerge from the ground, wrapping around and binding the Minotaur's feet. The Minotaur, shocked and startled, is momentarily distracted by the roots holding him down. Seizing the opportunity, Ray swings his massive sword heavily at the immobilized beast. The Minotaur is hit hard in the back by Ray's heavy swing, feeling the force of the blow. However, the sword doesn't pierce through and only causes a deep creak. Angered, the Minotaur whirls around, and Ray shouts as he prepares for his next attack. The battle intensifies as Ray and the Minotaur clash in a series of powerful strikes. The air fills with the sound of their weapons colliding as Ray's heavy sword meets the Minotaur's dual axes, each blow echoing through the room. Charlia begins to chant her next spell, which shines and forms a pointed shard of ice. She unleashes her magic spell, Ice Knife, and the projectile cuts through the air towards the Minotaur. The Minotaur manages to block the attack with his axe, causing the ice to shatter and clatter against the weapon. Charlia conjures multiple ice knives, leaving the Minotaur shocked by the onslaught. As Paja moves to find a better position, he reflects on how, despite the magic being mentally less taxing and ideal for continuous use, producing 5 at once is impressive. He acknowledges that Charlia's prowess is well-deserved of her self-proclaimed title of Attractive Charlia. Charlia fires the 5 ice knives, thinking that while the Minotaur is a unique monster, it's still not very intelligent. She grins, confident that this attack will make a significant impact. With that, Charlia believes victory is theirs. The arrows of Icaros, forged through temple rituals, are imbued with a potent paralytic poison and a blessing that makes them nearly impossible to miss. Paja releases his arrow toward the Minotaur, convinced that the creature's attention is fully on the ice knives, creating the perfect blind spot. As the arrow closes in on the Minotaur's side, Paja smiles, certain he's got him. To Paja's surprise, the Minotaur manages to deflect the incoming arrow, though the ice knives still strike its body, causing it to roar in pain. Ray is equally astonished by how the Minotaur prioritized the greater threat, the Icaros arrows, over the ice knives. Charlia shouts, asking Paja if he really just missed that shot, adding that it was the perfect opportunity. Still confused and in shock, Paja thinks to himself that there's no way the Minotaur blocked it. It was the perfect blind spot. Plus, the creature completely ignored the ice knives, which were right in front of its eyes as they closed in. Paja, bewildered, can't fathom how the Minotaur could have been aware of his attack and blocked it. He wonders if the creature instinctively sensed that the arrow posed a greater danger than the ice knives. Paja, still lost in thought, mutters to himself, No, that's stupid. It must have been a coincidence." Before he can finish, the Minotaur snorts in rage. Ray and Charlia immediately take notice of this shift in the creature's demeanor. The Minotaur takes a fighting stance, its muscular body tensing as its eyes narrow with deadly focus. Every movement is deliberate, its posture exuding a fierce determination. The air around it seems to thicken with the weight of its fury. Ray is perplexed by the Minotaur assuming a fighting stance. Charlia, equally bewildered, asks, "What's happening?" She then turns to Paja and inquires if he can fire another Icaros. Paja responds that he has no more Icaros left. Charlia indicates that it's acceptable to adjust the strategy and adhere to the theoretical approach. They plan to corner the Minotaur from 3 directions, disarm him, and then deliver the final blow. She calls Ray's attention and advises him to take things more seriously. She warns that if they continue at this pace, she might end up facing sarcastic remarks, like being told she could surpass the great master Gil Lynx. Charlia and Ray now both have very serious expressions on their faces. With a very ominous aura, the 3 of them encircle the Minotaur. Their determined expressions and the tension in the air make it clear that they are fully committed to their strategy. The Minotaur, now facing a formidable and unyielding trio, senses the gravity of the situation as they prepare to execute their plan. In a flashback, we see Charlia and Ray in a large room. Charlia is being handed a wand. It is the Holy Wand, the first she received from her master, Gil Lynx. She recalls his words, telling her to take it as a farewell gift, acknowledging that it might not be a worthy substitute, but offering it nonetheless. Ray kneels on the ground as Charlia's master tells him that he has placed his trust in him to take care of his daughter. He adds that if his headstrong daughter attempts to run away, he should not hesitate to use force to stop her if necessary. Charlia promised that, although she is not worthy at the moment, she will prove herself by mastering the wand's intended magic. She vowed to surpass Gil Lynx and become the greatest magic user in the world. She vowed to earn Gil Lynx's approval by proving her talent and mastery of magic. Back in the present, as the intense battle begins, Charlia chants her spell for thin ice, Paja fires multiple arrows, and Ray, with a determined expression, prepares to slash his sword. Paja and Ray are astounded by how the Minotaur manages to block all of their attacks, despite their simultaneous assault from opposite directions. Charlia unleashes her ice knives, hitting the Minotaur, but he manages to block most of them. She is shocked to see that the knives aimed at vital points are consistently blocked. With this realization, all three of them begin to grow impatient. The Minotaur is a mighty boss monster in the lower levels. It had proven itself as a demon beast with immense strength and durability, an enemy that could only be subdued by 3 individuals above Class C this time. However, it could not be attacked. Although the combined attacks of the 3 inflicted wounds on the demon beast, the Minotaur assumed a defensive stance, guarding its core and preventing any strikes from reaching its vital points. Even while bound by Earthbind and bleeding from multiple injuries, the Minotaur's movements remained completely unaffected. On the other hand, the adventurers barely managed to maintain their strength by intermittently drinking red potions to restore physical energy and blue potions for mental stamina. However, their supplies were limited. No matter how many potions they consumed, their concentration couldn't be replenished, and their mental fatigue only worsened over time. Charlia suddenly struck her wand against the ground, causing a loud noise that immediately caught Paja's attention. Charlia began chanting a magic spell, the ground trembling as she continued. Magical energy swirled at the top of her staff. "Fireball?" Paja asked in confusion. Ray angrily shouted at Charlia to stop, warning that such a long chant would leave her defenseless. But Charlia, with a determined look, yelled for silence. Charlia declared that someone destined to become the world's greatest magic user shouldn't struggle against such weak opponents. Ray, worried, muttered, "It won't work." Distracted, he didn't see the Minotaur's strike, which sent him flying. Then, with immense force, the Minotaur hurled its axe with deadly power. The axe spun powerfully toward Charlia. Paja tried to warn her, but it was too late. The axe struck, and blood splattered into the air. Charlia stood in shock, frozen by the sudden blow. But it was Ray who took the hit, blocking the attack. The axe struck his head, knocking off his helmet, which was damaged by the blow. Charlia, shocked and in tears, listened as Ray told her that staying calm is the most important thing for a magic user, a lesson her father had drilled into him. Then, with a steady voice, Ray added that she should take a deep breath. Charlia, saddened, apologized, but Ray smiled reassuringly, telling her it was okay. Suddenly, Paja called out, grabbing their attention. The Minotaur was charging, inhaling the air around it. Charlia and Ray stared in shock as the creature's body began to tremble and rumble with growing intensity. Paja warned them that a frenzy was coming and told them to place the yellow potion in their mouths. Ray and Charlia quickly did so. As the Minotaur unleashed its powerful attack, it roared with such force that shock waves rippled through the air. As the attack struck them, Charlia and Ray felt dizzy and wobbled, unable to move. However, after drinking the yellow potion they had in their mouths, their senses quickly returned, the potion clearing away the abnormal effects instantly. Paja asked if they could move, realizing that now, with the Minotaur having used its ultimate skill, it was the chance he had been waiting for. He opened his storage and declared that he would fire one more Icaros, a finishing blow, and prayed it would work. Charlia was furious that he had still kept one in reserve. Paja thought that there should be a chance after the Minotaur used Frenzy, even though using another Icaros would leave him at a huge deficit. But they had no choice. This was their last opportunity. With determination, he aimed to end it. The Minotaur charged again, preparing to use its Frenzy skill once more. Paja, Charlia, and Ray were utterly shocked by this, their eyes wide in disbelief. Then, without warning, the Minotaur unleashed the Frenzy for the second time, its power surging even stronger than before. Paja collapsed to the ground, unable to move under the force of the Frenzy skill. He couldn't believe what he was witnessing. "No way!" he muttered. It was said the Minotaur could only use Frenzy once per fight. But the beast tore itself free from the vines, its power growing beyond imagination. For the adventurers, this was an impossibility, something utterly beyond their understanding. A demon beast of the labyrinth should never be able to level up, enhance its skills, or evolve. Yet, here it was, gaining new powers mid-battle. This dangerous ability to learn and grow made the fight a desperate struggle, something none of them had ever prepared for. The ability to learn was something exclusive to adventurers. Yet, the Minotaur seemed to defy this rule. With terrifying strength, it swung its axe, striking Paja and defeating him in a single blow. Paja's body glowed and dissolved into orbs, just like all who perished in the labyrinth. Charlia stood frozen in horror, her mind reeling in shock. Ray, trembling, forced himself to stand despite his exhaustion. "Stand back," he told Charlia, his voice strained. Barely able to speak, Charlia thought, even if Ray can move, the effects of frenzy's howling. Sensing her fear, Ray reassured her. "No worries," he said softly. "I told you before your father asked me to protect you." He paused, then added, "But this is my decision, my own choice. As long as Charlia is behind me, I will not lose," Ray vowed, taking his stance, ready to face the charging Minotaur. The beast came at him with a menacing aura, swinging its axe with tremendous force. Ray calculated quickly, just one swing left. If I can dodge this, the Minotaur will be left defenseless. That will be my chance to win. As the axe sped toward him, Ray braced himself, preparing for the decisive moment. As the axe neared him, Ray swiftly ducked and prepared to strike with his sword. Seeing the opening, he thought, "This is the chance." But his hope quickly turned to despair as he realized the Minotaur was already preparing a punch with its massive arm, its fist clenched tight. Ray's eyes widened in shock that the first strike was a mere feint. The Minotaur's strike landed, hitting Ray with the brutal force. He couldn't believe it. A Minotaur had made a feint. It had copied the tactics from watching an adventurer fight a wolves. With that devastating blow, the Minotaur severed Ray's hand. He screamed in pain and agony, struggling to comprehend how this creature, even among the unique, was not ordinary. This Minotaur was truly abnormal. Charlia, in shock, called out for Ray. With a muffled voice, he urged her, "Run! Run away and live a long life. You must." As he spoke, the Minotaur loomed behind him, preparing to strike once more. With a single powerful strike, the Minotaur defeated Ray. Charlia was devastated, horrified by the sight before her. With that, Ray's body transformed into a ball of light, just like Paja's, leaving only his armor behind. Still in shock, Charlia remembered Ray's words that he would always protect her until she became the world's greatest magic user. Always. Overwhelmed with disbelief and grief, she cried out in pain, her heart breaking. Charlia struck her staff against the ground, her fury surging within her. With all her anger, she began to chant a spell, her thoughts consumed with rage. How dare the Minotaur kill Ray? She thought fiercely. She vowed that she would turn it to charcoal, ensuring the beast burned to death. As she poured her emotions into the incantation, the air around her crackled with energy. As she unleashed her fireball spell, an axe suddenly emerged in front of her, striking her down in a single blow. The Minotaur let out a triumphant roar, celebrating its victory. Outside the labyrinth, as the sun set, the guildmaster sat in his room, contemplating the fact that it had already been half a day since Paja and the others had left for a simple confirmation mission. Their delay was concerning, and he wondered if something had gone wrong in the labyrinth. Just then, someone entered the room, asking if something was troubling him. The guildmaster apologized for worrying before his guest and explained his concern. The guest, donning a mask, replied that there always seemed to be something troublesome whenever he met with the guildmaster. "I suppose your job has its hardships," he added with a knowing tone. "As always, you should try to talk about what happened." It was then revealed that the guildmaster's guest was none other than Gil Link, the strongest magic user in the world. After the guildmaster filled Link's in on the situation, Lynx noted that the adventurers sent to investigate hadn't returned. He pondered the possibility of a Minotaur being involved. As a level 97 S-class adventurer, he simply acknowledged and offered to check on the situation. The guildmaster hesitantly began to warn that Lynx's magic was too valuable for such a task. But before he could finish, Gil Lynx used magic and disappeared. The guildmaster noted that Gil Lynx was as carefree as ever. After some time, a magic circle appeared in the room, and Gil Lynx reappeared. The guildmaster asked how it went, but Gil Lynx remained silent, removing his mask with a slightly sad expression. Gil placed the items on the table, 3 adventurer medals and a broken staff. He explained that these were all that remained in the 10th floor's boss room, but the Minotaur was nowhere to be found. The guildmaster was stunned by this revelation. Gil inquired about Charlia's possible familial connection to Azel, to which the guildmaster affirmed, yes, she is his daughter. Gil was momentarily speechless, responding with a quiet, I see. Still in disbelief, the guildmaster asked if the 3 adventurers could have died, noting that they were all above C-class, more than capable of handling the 10th floor boss. Gil stood up and said he must visit the royal palace, promising to return once he had taken care of some errands. With a serious expression, he advised the guildmaster to tread carefully regarding the situation. Then he left the room. The guildmaster, still in disbelief, sat with many questions swirling in his mind. He wondered if the Minotaur had somehow fought the 3 adventurers to a standstill, or if something else entirely had happened, since the creature wasn't found in the boss room. Meanwhile, deep inside the labyrinth, the Minotaur, who had slain the 3 adventurers and grown even stronger, was lost in thought. Would he simply wait here from now on? To claim more victories, he needed new, stronger opponents to appear. The Minotaur stared at the stairs leading upward, a hunger for battle stirring within him. Restless, he began to wander the labyrinth, searching for worthy opponents. With a thunderous roar, he called out for strife, craving the challenge of stronger foes. The next morning, a witness report about the Minotaur reached Guildmaster Logan. Upon hearing the news, he was utterly shocked. He could hardly believe the report. The 10th floor boss Minotaur had been encountered on the 9th floor. The ones who reported this were 5 adventurers who had only started their careers this year. They described how the Minotaur didn't even glance at their frightened group and simply walked away. Though the story seemed absurd and spontaneous, the 5 adventurers' memories and words were perfectly consistent, and none of them appeared to be lying. In the guildmaster's office, he commanded that an alert be sent out to all adventurers. The lady standing near the door nodded in agreement. With a heavy sigh, the guildmaster wondered aloud what this would lead to. Normally, to move up or down the hierarchy, one had to use the stairs, which only adventurers granted grace could traverse. Monsters, on the other hand, couldn't even recognize the stairs, let alone use them. Yet, the Minotaur had been spotted on the 9th floor. Stressed by the unfolding situation, he scratched his head, muttering that at this rate, it was practically a case of a monster becoming an adventurer, something that had never happened before. He turned to the lady, whom he referred to as manager, and asked for her thoughts on the situation. We now see that the manager is not a lady but a strikingly handsome young man named Yador, the adventurer's guild manager. He replied that at the moment, not much could be determined. Isn't this a spontaneous abnormality? He asked, pondering whether it might be an artificial one created by someone. The guild master considered this, responding, artificially? True, it's not impossible for someone to be using a powerful controlling spell. Yador nodded, adding that they couldn't know for sure at that moment. But regardless of the circumstances, the situation might resolve itself soon. The guild master raised an eyebrow, asking, why do you think that? Yador turned to the guild master and asked if he had forgotten that a certain man was currently diving into the labyrinth. The scene shifted to reveal the back of a strong, noble-looking man clad in a fine suit of armor, wielding a powerful sword and shield. This was none other than Lord Percival, known as the Heaven Sword. Inside the labyrinth, Lord Percival faced a towering giant stone golem. With a menacing roar, The golem clenched its fist and swung down toward Percival. As the golem rained down several blows, Percival skillfully dodged each attack with swift movements. Just then, the golem raised its massive foot, attempting to stomp down on him. Percival turned and braced himself, raising his shield against the golem's descending foot. The impact resonated through the air as the shield absorbed the force of the blow, causing the golem's foot to come to a sudden halt. The ground rumbled beneath them, and Percival's shield shone brightly. A massive explosion erupted from Percival's shield, sending shockwaves through the air. The golem's foot was forced back by the sheer power, causing its footing to rattle and crumble. Unable to maintain its balance, the golem crashed to the ground in a thunderous collapse. Seizing the moment, Percival quickly launched his attack. With a swift movement, Percival propelled himself forward, using the debris still hanging in the air as stepping stones. He then dove toward the golem's face, aiming for its forehead, the creature's weak spot. However, the golem quickly reacted, raising its hand to block Percival's attack. With a powerful swing of his sword, Percival made a circular cut through the golem's hand, slicing it with precision. He managed to slip past the obstruction, continuing his dive toward the golem's vulnerable forehead. Percival struck the golem's forehead with immense force, damaging the gem embedded there and shattering it into pieces. As the golem began to crumble, its form disintegrated into orbs of light, just like all creatures that perished within the labyrinth. As the golem disintegrated, several potions and dropped items fell to the ground. It was said that the suitable floor for solo exploration for top S-class adventurers was floor 50, yet the Heaven Sword, Percival, had currently reached floor 96. After defeating the floor boss, Percival elegantly sheathed his sword, maintaining a calm expression. After over 10 hours on the 14th floor of the labyrinth, Percival was on his way home after finishing a battle in the deeper levels. He took a quick break and had something to eat. Percival Merculius, though the head of the noble Merculius house, rarely attends court councils. He spends most of the year traveling solo to various parts of the labyrinth, an eccentric swordsman following his own path. At just 12 years old, he became an adventurer, reaching A class by the age of 14. At 15, after subjugating the Zohard bandits with his overwhelming martial prowess, he became the youngest S-class in history, earning the nickname Heavenly Sword. This title came from the words of his childhood swordmaster, who praised him, saying, "This boy's talent with the sword is unmatched. It is heaven's gift." Percival reflected that this latest exploration had been meaningful this time. He made it to the 96th floor. He also gained familiarity with using Ende's shield in battles against giant enemies. The Merculius house had 5 treasures passed down through the generations, and this shield was one of them. Ende's shield possesses the ability to deflect physical attacks and reduce recoil. The second treasure is Reika's ring, which invokes attack magic. Third is Kalden's dagger, capable of negating abnormal conditions, making poison ineffective, and granting sacred attributes. The fourth, Bolton's amulet, bestows invisibility and the power to absorb or accumulate magic. Lastly, Alestra's bracelet allows for the arbitrary dissipation of magic. Though each item is of the highest grade among rare artifacts, no one has yet mastered their full potential. Percival clenched his fists, vowing that he would one day master them all. The lowest layer is where Percival will be able to unlock the full potential of these treasures. His plan is to reach the 100th floor and face the labyrinth's main beast, the Metal Dragon. He intends to subjugate it solo, certain that no one will interfere, allowing him to fight alone to his heart's content. It will be a battle against strong, finely honed enemies. Though his expression remained as stoic as ever, the usually taciturn swordsman felt something stir within him, a surge of heat, as he thought about his ultimate goal. At the Adventurers Guild, the manager remarked that, judging by the amount of food being brought in, Percival would likely return to the surface in a few days. The guildmaster asked the manager if he's suggesting they request a subjugation from the Heavenly Sword once Percival returns, acknowledging it would be a swift solution. He notes that Percival is the kind of man who relentlessly pursues the truth. Despite the Minotaur defeating the top 3 members of Class C, it would be no more than a minor challenge for Percival. However, the guildmaster is aware that Percival might not accept such a request. The manager responds, pointing out that the Minotaur will retaliate if provoked. It's likely the Grey Wolves, beasts that roam every floor of the labyrinth. One should never rush to engage overwhelmingly superior opponents. However, floor bosses will attack anyone who dares invade their boss room, refusing to back down regardless of the intruder's rank. But if a boss were to wander outside its room without altering its nature, the manager paused, not yet finished speaking. The guildmaster also considers the idea carefully. He asks the manager if he's implying that the Minotaur might attack the heavenly sword on his way back home. His tone carries a hint of curiosity as he questions the manager's reasoning. The guildmaster remarks that such a scenario would be convenient. The manager responds that it's not impossible. He explains that the higher floors of the labyrinth have smaller areas, and on the single-digit floors, adventurers are more likely to encounter each other than demon beasts. In that case, the likelihood of Percival crossing paths with the mentioned Minotaur increases significantly. So, the chances are quite high, aren't they? Inside the labyrinth, the battle between Percival and the Minotaur rages on. Percival delivers a powerful swing of his sword, and it connects with the Minotaur's chest. The blow lands with force, and the Minotaur's face contorts in agony as the impact takes its toll. Percival watches the Minotaur intently, waiting to see if the attack has finally finished him. His gaze sharpens, measuring the creature's every move as he assesses whether the blow was enough to end the battle. The Minotaur skids backward from the force of the attack, but somehow manages to stop himself. Percival is momentarily shocked by the creature's resilience. Without hesitation, the Minotaur retaliates by hurling his axe at Percival, but the throw misses, the weapon crashing into the floor with a heavy thud instead. The Minotaur clutched its chest, desperately trying to stem the bleeding, its face twisted in a mix of agony and rage. Percival stood frozen, believing he had delivered the decisive blow to finish the beast. Yet, the strike had only cut through flesh. Doubt crept into his mind had he misjudged his depth perception. No, he thought. If that were the case, but still, uncertainty lingered. The Minotaur, consumed by fury, reached behind its back as a glowing magic circle appeared, crackling with an ominous buzzing sound. Percival froze in shock, his eyes widening at the spectacle before him. The Minotaur slid its hand into the glowing circle, grasping something within. With a guttural roar, it pulled out a massive sword, its blade gleaming with an otherworldly light. The Minotaur swung the massive sword with immense power, the force of the strike sending a gust of wind rippling through the air. From its previous battles with the three adventurers, the Minotaur had learned a technique they called sack. Using that knowledge, it had retrieved the enormous blade a prized loot from its earlier victory, and now wielded it with deadly intent. Percival thought to himself, this is clearly an anomaly, an abnormal presence encountered here on the 6th floor, far from where it should belong. What unsettled him even more was the Minotaur's ability to wield sack, a weapon that should have been impossible for anyone other than an adventurer blessed by grace to operate. It defied all logic and rules he understood, leaving him both awestruck and uneasy. And above all else, the Minotaur had managed to dodge his flash attack, by mere inches, just a hair's breadth away from certain death. Percival couldn't help but feel a mix of frustration and exhilaration. Truly, the labyrinth never ceases to amaze, he thought, as the encounter grew more unpredictable and dangerous. The Minotaur's face twisted into a fierce expression, its eyes blazing with the resolve to fight. Percival smirked slightly, gripping his weapon tighter. That look, he thought. Perhaps this might actually be a bit of fun. An ominous tension filled the air as the Minotaur took a battle stance, gripping the massive sword in one hand and an axe in the other, ready for combat. The demon beast and the heavenly sword, locked in a deadly standoff. A brutal clash was about to unfold, where strength, fury, and skill would collide in a battle that would echo through the labyrinth's dark halls.